Hi, welcome back to the channel. I'm Michelle, and today I'm going to be talking about how we're doing. So I did a better job of this last year about updating how we were doing outside of curriculum and everything like that. I do have, mid-year updates and all that about curriculum, but I kind of forgot to do how we're actually doing, emotionally and outside of those things. So today I'm going to be talking about how I'm doing, how my oldest is doing, and my middle and third child. So if you're new here, I have a 10-year-old, a 6-year-old, and a 3-year-old son. So these videos are kind of just updating how we're doing outside of just, homeschooling, how things are going, kind of just like, a life chatty update video. So for me, I would say things are going pretty well. So if you watched my videos recently, my kids went through a stomach bug that went through all of them, and luckily it was over pretty quickly, but it did take them a while to kind of, get back into things. So I'm just really glad everybody is healthy. I think sometimes we take that for granted until we get things like everybody getting sick. They realize, oh, it's a 70-degree day. You can actually go outside and do something opposed to somebody being sick in the house. So I'm just really grateful at this point that everybody is healthy. Overall, I would say things have gone really well, knock on wood, this year. And I think there are some things that have contributed to going so well. So this is our second year of homeschooling. And I think that helps. I think your first year is a lot of trial and error and kind of really finding your own confidence and voice in homeschooling. And I think we also had a really rough start to our first year of homeschooling. My mom passed away early on in the homeschooling year, so that did affect things a lot. So I think next to that, anything seems like a great year. But there are some things that I've done that I think have been really helpful and beneficial to me. So one of my January goals, and I'll link that up above, my 2023 goals of the year video. But I talk about in that video, one of the things I really want to do was prioritize myself. So I'm definitely a person that has had trouble with that. I always put people before me, and I'm always putting myself on the back burner. So now that my kids aren't, babies anymore, and I'm kind of getting out of the trenches of that, which is awesome, by the way, I feel like I can really finally focus on areas of myself, and that has really helped. So some of the things I've been doing is I joined our library book club. So it's actually a book club for adults who read kids' books. So it's like middle grade and young adult, which is perfect because I'm reading all these books either with my kids or to my kids. So I have all this knowledge of middle grade and young adult books, and I need somewhere to talk to people about it that are over the age of 10. So it's really nice. Every month we either have a theme that we try to select a book from, or we all read the same book, and it's been great just talking to these different adults that come from different areas and different perspectives, and being able to have an adult conversation about, the themes of the book and how we saw things. And it's just been really life-giving in that. It's, filling my cup up. So I really enjoy once a month doing that. Another thing I've started doing, which I haven't done since my youngest was a baby, is I was able to get back into Bible study at our church. So if you're new here, I'm Christian, Lutheran, ELCA. And they recently started a Bible study up. And it's exciting because I haven't done a real Bible study in a long time, just because I've been in the trenches of everything. And it is nice to meet with a group of adults and have an intellectual conversation and this open-minded, not you're right or you're wrong, but just exploring your faith is really, really nice. Some other things I've made a priority is we got a piano, and I linked that up above. Our church was getting rid of some pianos because it cost to tune all the pianos. And for some reason, I don't know if your guys at churches or you've been to churches like this, they have a million pianos. They had 6 or 7 pianos, not counting the organ. And so they were looking to rehome them. And luckily, the person that tunes the pianos at the church also moves the pianos. So we paid for it to have it moved to our house. And it's been one of my goals in life is to learn piano. I don't know why, I don't know where it came from, but it's always been a goal of mine to learn to play piano. And it's been going awesome. So we have the piano in our family room, and I actually use Hoffman Academy. Now I used the free version to teach myself. I think I'm on unit 2, and it's worked great for that. My youngest is my oldest daughter has now shown an interest in piano, so I bought the premium subscription because that has a lot more, the games and the musical theory, so being able to read things that would be helpful, I think, especially to her. And I looked through, and I think some of it would be helpful to me as well, just remembering the musical notes and things like that. So that has been going really well. Every Sunday, that's my day of rest. I have a video on that if you want to check that out, what I do on Sundays. But that's really when I spend the time for myself. Usually, sometimes things come up and you can't always take time for yourself. Totally get that. But I do a specific lesson that day. Throughout the week, I'm practicing, or I try to practice piano, and then every Sunday do an actual lesson. So I am progressing. I'm also taking that time for myself, which is really helpful. And it's really interesting because I've never really been what I would consider a musical or artistic person. So using that part of my brain, especially at 36, is just a little different. And it takes me longer to learn certain things than I would have probably in my youth. But it's really nice to be using that part of my brain that I haven't really accessed a lot of. So that's been good. And top of that Sunday routine is I've been trying to be more artistic or creative, so whether that's painting or drawing. We have a ton of art books in our house because we homeschool, and art is something I've always kind of avoided because I'm a perfectionist and art never came out perfect for me. And that was always an issue, but I've learned to let that go through homeschooling, which is really nice. And a lot of the art projects I participate with my kids when we're doing it through the week, because we do art at least once, sometimes twice a week. But I've been trying to, again, on that Sunday, do something creative, whether it's sewing, constantly sewing things in this house, people ripping their pants. But I'm also trying to be more artistic and leaning into that it doesn't have to be perfect to really allow myself to grow more. And I do have a couple things I'll show you here that I've been working on. So my very first picture I made that kind of is like, oh my God, I can do this, was this cat. And this was the Paint Lab book. I will link it down below that we've been using in our homeschool for one of our art. But it just turned out so cute, and I love this little cat. He lives on our fridge. His name is Chester. But just having fun and actually making something that I'm proud of. And does it always come out perfectly? No. So for example, I had a picture of the horse farm we're at. Whenever I would go, there was like this perfect, scenery picture. I'm like, I want to draw and paint that. And again, very limited artistic ability, but I was willing to try. And did it turn out absolutely perfect? No. But for me, it's a reminder of, I can do it. And it was fun. The process was fun. And I think that's the great. Does it look exactly how I pictured it? No. But is it still remind me of that? Yes. So that was the scenery I did. And then in one of the videos I showed how I actually painted this one. This is my dog Grant. He's 13 years old, so I thought it would probably be a good idea to do like a self-portrait of him. And again, it makes me happy to do it. And doing those things, I think, that make you happy and fill you up are really important. I think that's why this year has gone so much better, is because I'm pouring myself into different parts, not just motherhood, not just homeschooling, but all these different areas that I'm really proud of myself for. So, like I said, I'm the director of Christianity at our church, so my husband and I kind of streamline. He handles the high schoolers, and I do like K through 7th, but it's a lot of programming, a lot of planning, and a lot of things like that. But I'm good at that. I'm very an organized person, and it's really nice to put my time and effort into something and use different talents that I have and realize that I'm, more than just mom, more than just teacher, that I can do all these different things and I'm good at it. So that's really great. So I really have enjoyed Sunday school this year, and it's gone wonderfully. There's been ups and downs, of course, but overall, I think we did an awesome job. We wrap up in the end of May, and it's been a great year. On top of that, one of the things I've been trying to do is take care of myself. So we eat pretty healthy in our house. We have for a long time. My youngest had some food intolerances when she was a baby. That kind of was the catalyst to eating better because we didn't have a choice. And my youngest daughter has celiac disease, so we're gluten-free. My youngest son has a dairy intolerance, so we're mostly dairy-free. So, I mean, whatever I cook is pretty amazing no matter what, because I have so many different things I have to take out. But I think taking care of myself in terms of, I got into skincare this year, and I got a link up above. 100% Pure is the company that I really like to use. Not sponsored, not affiliated. Don't do that. I just really love the company. So I got a monthly subscription box. I did recently cancel it because I realized I couldn't do it every month because I was ending up with so many products, because they send you like full-size products and I wasn't going through them quick enough. So I'll put it on hold for a few months and see if I can get through the products they sent me, because a lot of it is like a full skin routine almost every month. So, and last month I did get lipstick as well. But most of the stuff, I can't go through it that quickly enough, even with my 10-year-old trying some different things as well. But it's really nice to take that time, even if it's 5 minutes a night, washing my face and putting the various creams on or whatever. It's time I'm intentionally taking care of myself, which is really important, and I think has a really big impact on, not just how your day goes, how your week goes, but, how you feel, and that affects everything else. So that has been really good. We've done our co-op this year, and that has been great too. I mean, again, there's hits and misses with that. We've had some reorganization because one parent had to step away because they moved. Another parent luckily stepped up and kind of took that part for me. But is it perfect? No, but it's great having that group of people that, not only do our kids have fun and get together, but we're having that support group as an adult and as a homeschooler as well to lean on. Like, I'm having this issue. Have you had this issue before? How are things going? Having that adult interaction every week is really helpful, but also having that camaraderie between us, I think, is really helpful. So that's going really well. I think in terms of teaching, I'm really confident in the choices I've made, and I think as time goes on, I become more comfortable with myself and the choices. And I definitely gave up that, fantasy self-homeschooler. I talk about in a previous video how when I first started out, I was very interested in things like Charlotte Mason, and I even looked into classical type of education and things like that. And again, realizing that I like that idea, but it's not me. And that's completely fine, that I don't have to be this homeschooler or that homeschooler. I'm just me. And being me is great. And leaning into my strengths and leaning into my kids' strengths, I think, is really important. And just letting go a lot of that facade of what you want to be and just be who you are, whatever homeschooler that might be, and not trying to fit yourself in a certain box or only do certain things a certain way because that's what everybody else is doing. No, I'm done with that. I've been done with that for a while, but I think taking the time to, really in-depth research the curriculum I use, feeling comfortable and confident in the choices I make, even when they're not the choices other people necessarily would make, or the trendiness of social media, that those aren't what people are using, but just realizing what I'm doing is perfect for me and perfect for my family. And that's great. So just being a lot more confident in that area, I think, is helpful. And I think that just comes with time and experience working with your kids. The first year is going to be the bumpiest, but I think as time goes on, you just get more and more confident with yourself. And I think also knowing when to shut things off, like social media, and realizing when those things are influencing you in a negative way. I don't use Instagram. I obviously use YouTube, and I really enjoy interacting in that, but it's life-giving to me. It's nothing that I feel like takes time or energy from me in a negative way. I enjoy spending my time interacting with people. I enjoy making these videos. So again, it's another life-giving thing for me. So I think that's the biggest thing this year, is I've just done a really good job of pouring into myself and finding different areas to use the skills and resources I have and being confident in the choices I've made. So that has been really awesome. Next would be my daughter, so my 10-year-old. So she recently turned 10, and we're definitely feeling those preteen years. So she's definitely had some, I don't want to say attitude, but she's just, emotions are, on a roller coaster of that, and that's completely fine. We did a human body study last summer that led into a puberty unit study and everything like that. So she's aware of what's going on. And I have to remind myself that she's a good kid. She really is. She's very responsible. She listens well. She just is having those moments where it's, 0 to 60 or, a snobby little comment and things like that. And just to breathe. I got 2 more kids I gotta do after her with, puberty and preteens. So I'm gonna make it. But adjusting to that mindset as well. And other just, changes that are going on. One thing I think that has kind of aggravated that a little is that she typically does horseback riding once a week, but in December, her horseback riding instructor actually broke her ankle. And so she hasn't done lessons for almost 4.5 months now. And I think, we visited the barn, we go and visit the horses and she brushes them and she does different chores and things like that. But she can't actually get up and ride because the instructor isn't at a point in her physical therapy because she broke it in a really weird spot and had to have surgery and everything. She's not in a spot where she could safely instruct if something happened and, the child was there, and she's not ready to take on that aspect for it, and I wouldn't push her in any means. I mean, the most important thing is that she heals. We'll be here when she's ready, but I think she definitely misses having that, time for herself where it's also a confidence builder for her. She's capable of doing these things and she's really proud of herself. So I think some of it is she does miss that aspect of it. But on top of that, I think she's finding other outlets. She's really recently gone into writing a lot of poetry, and it makes sense for her. She's a very deep thinker, and she feels things intensely, much like my husband does. And one of her ways of getting that out is to write poetry. And she usually writes about nature and the feelings of animals. So she's very into Catherine Applegate. That's kind of her favorite author right now. So she definitely takes a lot from that. She turns it into this really nice poetry, and it's definitely deep, and she's exploring some darker feelings and things like that. So it's nice to see her find those different outlets and change. And one thing that I'm really proud of her this year is, her growth mindset. That's something we've been really trying to work on with her, just because going from public school to here, it was difficult because she had a lot of anxiety from the public school system. And she was always concerned about getting it right, and not necessarily learning it, but just being able to reproduce the answers. And especially in math, that was something she struggled with a lot. She had a lot of math anxiety with that. And it's gotten really so much better, and to the point where she was taking, so we do dimensions, Singapore dimensions, and with that there's a textbook, a workbook, and you can get a test booklet too. So when we finish a chapter, I would usually have her do a test. So we hit a part where we were doing long division, and for whatever reason, it just wasn't clicking, and it was frustrating her really bad. Again, I think it had a lot to do with, the emotional stuff too. But it was just frustrating her, and it wasn't working. And she finally, worked through it. She got through it, learned the concept, understood it. But when it came time to taking the test, she was very apprehensive. And, we're not big, this is a test, this determines, how much you know. Nothing like that. It's just, we need to know where you are. And with tests, I don't help her. I will clarify the question if she doesn't understand. For example, she needed help understanding what quotient was and things like that. So I will help with that. But I tell her, this is your time to show me what you know. And it's okay if you don't have it right. That just means we'll work on it. But there was this one problem, and she was getting upset about it. And she told me she didn't understand, and I told her, I'm not gonna explain it to you. I want you to try your best, use the skills you have, work through the problem. You can do it, and guess what? If you get it wrong, that's completely fine. We'll work through it and figure out what we need to do. But she was very emotional about it. Again, I think it has to do with some of those changes happening, but it was just, she was trying something that she wasn't sure she could do. And she leans very heavily on me with math. Language arts, not at all. She will go off and do her own thing because she knows she's got that. That's one of her strengths. But math is one of she has, some cautionariness or precaution to it. So she was really nervous to take this problem on all by herself. And I told her, you can do this. You can do it. So she works through the problem, gets done with her test. Of course, she throws me the test booklet because, And I look it over, and guess what? She did it correctly. She did it the exact way she was supposed to. And I told her that. I'm like, you did it right. And she was shocked. She was visibly shocked that she got it right. But I'm like, this is the point. You can do this. You're fully capable of it. And I'm proud of you that you worked through that difficulty, that frustration. Because here's the thing, she could do the math problem, but mentally she had this block that she couldn't, that it was too hard. She didn't understand it. She could. She just needed to get over that. And because she was willing to try, she was able to see that she is fully capable and just a lot more confident. So it's moments like that I'm like, yes, you got it. So it was a nice moment. So that's how she's doing. She's doing well with, all of her subjects. She's flying through them. Like, she's become so independent, especially with language arts. I pretty much just have to hand it to her and check, and she's good. She's very self-motivated. Again, I think some of that comes from being the oldest as well. But she's doing really well, even with these, changes that are coming. She's a really good kid, and I'm really proud of her. So next to my 6-year-old. So my 6-year-old, she's doing well as well. She is currently not doing any classes because she couldn't decide between cheerleading and gymnastics. And then when it was time to sign up for gymnastics, she had the stomach bug. So I just didn't sign her up because she would have missed the first 2 weeks. So she's waiting for the next session, but she's doing really well. She's definitely a child, I think, that has some kind of neurodiverseness going on with her. She's very impulsive and is prone to go again from that 0 to 60 in emotional range. Her reaction to a lot of things is, oh my God, there's a tiger hiding in the woods and it's gonna eat me. That fight or flight thing. It's and it's funny because whenever I mention this to pediatricians or things, her age is always the excuse that, she's young. I've been hearing that from pediatricians for years now because I've noticed that, as she gets older, she gets a little bit more flighty, she's definitely in her own world type thing. And so many times pediatricians just tell me, oh, she'll get older and it'll change. And I was like, okay. So, we're working with it, and luckily we homeschool, so we can accommodate to those things. But some things that I really think she's doing well is she struggled with reading. Again, she's only 6, so it's not like, oh my God, she's behind or anything. But it's an area that she really has to intensely focus on, and that takes a lot more effort on her part. So reading isn't something she naturally finds enjoyable. But she's doing really well. And what I think has been really interesting is the last couple weeks, she's picked up books to actually read. Before, she would just read them or pick them up to look at books. But I want to show you the 2 books she chose to read because I just thought it was funny. So she's been reading this one. Again, she'll do a page or 2 a day. Here's where she's at. But she's actually, reading, and she can do a really good job. It's just, again, that focused energy. It takes a lot of effort for her, and it's almost exhausting for her. But this is the other one I thought was funny that she picked up. This was my oldest daughter's first Bible when she was, I think she got it at her baptism or something. But she picked it up and started reading, and I thought that was really funny because I think a lot of parents, Christian homeschoolers, Christian parents push that kind of stuff on their kids. And here's the thing, I think if you give them the opportunity, they will organically find different resources. We don't just talk about Christianity in our household, we talk about many belief systems, but she's really actually been enjoying reading the Bible stories out of here. So I just thought that was funny that of all the books we have 3 bookshelves, that's what she chose. But yeah, it was good. So she's doing well. She's flying through All About Reading. I feel like we went at a snail's pace through All About Reading level 1, but now she's gearing up. But again, it's that, I guess, stamina for reading that she's working on. But she's starting to actually pick books up and try to read them. one thing I've noticed too is that she's very, the nice thing about living in your own world is you often don't care what others think. So when she was in gymnastics, I remember they had a long thing that they would have to do different moves to on a mat. And, you know, she'd tell the kids to do it, and each kid would do it, and when it was her turn, she would just kind of like fly every single time. And it was just the cutest thing that she really doesn't care what others think about her, or, you know, what if she's following the directions exactly right. She was just in her own element. And in some ways, I think that's a wonderful thing, and a bit envious for, if to be honest, that she can just let it all go and just be herself. So that's really nice. She doesn't really care what everybody else is doing. She's not trying to be like everybody else. She's just her. So math has been interesting. So she is about to finish Singapore 1A. And she's doing fantastic with it. It's funny because we've started to reach points where my daughter, my oldest, struggled. So I kind of have some apprehension with lessons. Like, oh, like I just remember her struggling with those. And my 6-year-old is just like, yep, got it. So one thing I have had an issue with that though is because she's able to climb to a higher level, the problems get a lot, like there's more problems. We went from, you know, 1 page to 2 pages. Now it's like 3 or 4 pages. So I don't make her do all the problems, obviously, in the textbook and workbook, especially when she seems to be getting the concept really well. And I thought briefly for switching her to something like Math Mammoth, because I saw that they had the all the levels on sale for $100 or something like that dollars. And I've heard it's very similar to Dimensions. And I had her try out the sample pages and stuff like that. And I briefly thought about switching just because she doesn't seem to need as much practice that Dimensions gives her. But she's getting to the point where she's capable, but I don't know if the maturity is there. So I'm kind of on this in-between is because we're going into 1B next, and she's definitely starting to hit, you know, second grade math concepts, which I think her brain's capable of, but I don't think necessarily she's capable of doing that much problems. Do I just keep splitting the problems? I'd love to know your guys' thoughts on this. If you have a child who advances through math pretty quickly, but they're still young, what do you do with it? How do you handle it? So right now I'm just kind of narrowing down the problems. And the weird thing is she does a lot of it mentally. She doesn't like counters or 10 frames or anything like that. We just did the number bond and, you know, getting to the closest 10 thing. And I tried counters, and I even tried to write it on a whiteboard. And she's like, Mom, why are you writing? I can just do it in my head. And I was like, okay. And she was doing, you know, 8 plus 5. And she could see that, you know, to get the 8 to 10, you need 2 more, and 2 would be part of your 5, so you just need 3 more. So she can do all those steps mentally in her head, which is great, but it's like, okay, what do I do now? So, and she definitely is a kid that loves patterns. She makes patterns out of everything. I'll have to insert some pictures here. So one of her chores, the kids rotate who has to unload the dishwasher every week. And when it's her turn, she'll make the silverware into specific patterns every time. And I asked her one time, I'm like, so why are they like that? And she's like, oh, well, it's obviously a flower, Mom. Again, in her own world, it's one of those great things. And, you know, when I try to give her counting blocks, she doesn't use them to count. She just makes like these symmetrical patterns or towers that are like perfectly symmetrical. And it's really funny that she'll be doing the mental math in her head while she's playing with the counters and making pictures or whatever. So it's just, she's a very interesting child in that aspect. And same thing with, we did a lesson, I think, in science, and I brought out the snap circuit set, and as soon as she saw that, she was like, ooh, and she took the pieces, and she started making her own things and connecting things, and it was just like her brain took over, and it was like, da 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 da. It was really interesting. Anything with building, we had a project where you had to build a device that would push a ball without you touching it, and she was like all over that, and the recycling bin, and coming up with these different strategies. So she definitely has a lot of these strengths. And it's just very new to me because, like I said, my oldest and youngest seem to be opposite in areas. Like I said, I was used to a child, you know, struggling in math and having all this anxiety, and she's just flying through it. So it's different when they're very different, and she definitely thinks, and her brain definitely works differently than mine. So it's definitely adjusting to that and trying to parent well to that, knowing that, the reactions she's having aren't necessarily because she's, disobedient or not listening. It's because her brain works differently, and adjusting my expectations to not get frustrated, asking her the 5th time to do something because she got distracted. So she's doing really well. I'm really proud of how she's progressing. And again, just living into that part that she's in her own world, and that's an amazing thing. So next would be my youngest. So my youngest is 3. He recently just turned 3. And he's a ball of energy. Dropped his nap, has completely disrupted our schedule, but he's gotten to the point where he's gotten better. Like, we've gotten into a routine now that he's not napping, that he has a specific 30-minute tablet time, which he'll do in the mornings while we're doing math and language arts. And then he'll get his little workbook out, and I got him one of those little preschool number booklets and things like that, and sometimes he'll use his sister's old booklets. And he's very interested in numbers and learning and tractors and construction. And it's funny because we are very gender neutral with our toys and things like that. So it's funny to see him naturally gravitate towards like construction equipment. I mean, we've had a tool bunch since my oldest was, 3 or 4 like him. So, we have both sets of baby dolls and tools and dress-up clothes and all that stuff. But he's definitely, I like to call him a country boy at heart, because his favorite thing to wear is cowboy boots. And he loves, whenever we went out to the horse farm, he loves, shoveling out the stalls and having a little wheelbarrow. So he's very cute in that sense. He's also very strong-willed. So potty training has been really hard with him. My girls, didn't realize at the time, did it so quickly. They were each potty trained by 2. Very self-motivated. Even my daughter with celiac disease, undiagnosed at that time, did well with potty training. But it's not so much that he is distracted or can't do it. It's a power struggle type thing where he knows he's in control of it, so it has to be his choice. So all you parents out there who have dealt with really strong-willed kids, what suggestions for potty training? Again, he knows what to do. He's fully capable of doing it, but getting him to make the choice to do it. I've tried reward systems. That hasn't worked. Praise, things like that, positive reinforcement, that hasn't really worked. I've tried completely, nothing on him. That hasn't worked. So any suggestions you have for this 3rd-time mom who is having a little difficulty with a strong-willed child that doesn't seem to want to use the bathroom, let me know in the comments below. I'd really appreciate that. Is one part we're really struggling with him on. Like I said, he's very actually bright. He's very, he maneuvered through every baby gate we gave him. He can figure out how the doors work to unlock them. So if somebody's in the bathroom, he'll just take his little screwdriver, even his hand sometimes, and pop the lock. So, that's disruptive to whoever's in the bathroom. But he's very bright, and he's definitely interested in, I think, some schoolwork. I don't think necessarily maybe it's because he wants to learn or because his sisters are doing and that's what's cool, or he wants his own thing. That's something I'm definitely trying to work more on, is incorporating him into things, because I won't lie, it's harder having him around during school because he's kind of like a little tiny tornado, and he doesn't mean to be. He's 3. That's behavior of a 3-year-old, but when you have to have really concentrated work, things like math or, you're reading your book, it's hard with little tiny tornadoes running around. So I think having more focused activity for him to do, or maybe some just more one-on-one time with him. So I do plan on incorporating him in some way into homeschooling this summer and next year, whether that be something specifically for him. And he's not a busy bin kind of kid. I get that suggestion a lot. He's really not. He just throws everything out and makes it really destructive. And it lasts 2 minutes. So it's not give him a little busy bag and put him in a different area. No, he wants to be in with us, doing stuff with us. So I think just accommodating to that and really making the effort and time to include him on things, even when it's a bit of a struggle, I think is where we're going with that. But again, he's doing really well. He was more of a late talker than my other kids were, and he's definitely caught up with that, and he's chatting away. So I think it might be time to introduce some, letters, maybe some letter sounds, get him into that. Is it something I'm looking forward to? No. God, I'm so preschool years and kindergarten, I'm just not really excited to teach. And I talk about that in my confession video. It's not an area that I'm like, woo. I much prefer the older levels, the more intellectual stimulating things than, letter sounds and things like that. I've done it a lot. So it'll be fun no matter what we do. And even if it's not fun, we'll do it too, because he deserves to have that time as well, even though I'm kind of burnt out at teaching that level. So I'm going to definitely work some things in for him, like I said, this summer, and see how that goes. But overall, I think we're all really doing great. And I hope it continues that way. I mean, we have, I think, 4 weeks left of the school year before we transition to summer, so that's exciting. And I'll definitely be updating on, what we'll be doing for summer and things like that. But it's been so far a really great year. We've all grown, I think, a lot, and kind of found our strengths and worked on our weaknesses and really accepted where we are and what we're doing. So it's been great. It's been a great year. And of course there have been, upsets and struggles and stomach bugs along the way. I don't want to give the idea that it's a picture perfect, rainbows and unicorns over here, but it's really been a great year. And I think a lot of that has to do with just the intentionality I put into myself and the year itself. So if you have any questions, leave them down below. Thank you for watching.